What's going on, everyone? It's Chris back again with a follow-up video. Wanting to follow up on the video I recently posted earlier this month, talking about the top 10 closing segments in Raw history. And now I want to talk about the top 5 closing segments in SmackDown history, with 2 honorable mentions, and also, one you can probably guess, I also want to talk about what I think is the best segment ever in the history of SmackDown, and that one should be pretty obvious. So, let's just jump right into it. At number 5, we're going back to January of 2004. And this one's going to be a little controversial because this segment features Chris Benoit with John Cena and how they were able to humiliate the SmackDown general manager at the time, Paul Heyman. Cena had beaten Rhino in the main event of SmackDown that night, and Heyman had threatened Cena, saying that once he loses to Rhino, he's going to wash Cena's mouth out with soap. But Heyman, being the arrogant GM, does say, since I'm an honorable man, if Cena gets lucky and beats Rhino, I will eat the bar of soap myself. Cena is able to pick up the win, and the realization sets in on Heyman of what's happening, and he then tries to hightail it out there by going up the aisle. And while Cena's about to go after him, it's Chris Benoit actually who comes out from the backstage, and he is able to bring Heyman back up the aisle, and they throw him in the ring. Now, part of this segment, and something that does not age well, Heyman does grab a kendo stick to defend himself, and he hits Benoit in the head with it. Benoit no-sells this, tackles Heyman to the ground, but Cena pulls him off and says, no, time for this guy to eat his words. And he's basically indicating Cena's going to grab the bar of soap for Heyman to have to eat. So Benoit then puts Heyman in the sharpshooter while Cena grabs a microphone. He reminds Heyman, you're the GM of the show, and it's time for you to live up to your words. So Cena goes out and grabs the soap, comes back in with it, and the little game they play, I guess you can call it, is every time Cena wants Benoit to cinch up on the sharpshooter to make it a little more painful, he just goes, Chris, and then Benoit is able to lay in the pressure with the sharpshooter a little more, making Heyman more vulnerable to yelling out in pain. So the first thing he does is when Benoit does sink in the sharpshooter more, he forces Heyman to lick the soap, and then he tells Fat Ass to take a big bite of it, which Heyman has to do. Still trapped in the sharpshooter, Cena tells him this can all end as long as you eat this bar of soap. Heyman is defiant, saying that he won't, so Cena says the magic word of Chris, and Heyman is forced to take another bite, and then Heyman just gets very indignant and tells Cena, F you, F you, F you. Cena says, F me? No, F you, Paul. And he then basically forces one more bite of soap for Heyman, while he's been in the sharpshooter all this time, while Heyman is also still selling and screaming out in pain from the sharpshooter. And so he's being humiliated, having to again eat his words, and having a bar of soap constantly stuffed in his mouth. This, I think, was also a big moment for Cena early in his career to be in the closing segment of SmackDown. He took what could have been a very corny segment, but made it very entertaining. He really got the people into it, and it sent the fans home happy. And I remember this is actually what made me take interest in Cena's character, and really was impressed. I'd been impressed by his mic work for a while, but this really took it to another level again. The sheer charisma and entertainment that he displayed, I think, obviously, is what separates him from 99% of the guys you see come through who try to make those corny segments entertaining, but just can't win the people over and can't do it. And then, of course, the segment ends with Cena and Benoit embracing, and they had that short-term alliance post Survivor Series 2003, which continued for the next couple weeks. So that's number 5. Number 4 would now take us to 2009. And it is Jeff Hardy's farewell speech after he lost a steel cage match for the World Heavyweight title to CM Punk. This match was dubbed as a loser. Basically, the loser leaves WWE for Jeff Hardy. It was his one rematch he got post SummerSlam. And Punk was able to retain his title, who had freshly made a heel turn that summer. And Punk then scurries up the ramp, and Jeff Hardy is left laying in the middle of the ring. Punk's music turns off, and Jeff gets up, and he has a small round of applause, and he tells everyone, I want to apologize for anyone who was counting on me and rooting for me to win tonight. And he also apologizes that now people are going to have to deal with CM Punk as champion rather than having him as champion. He comments that it's been a hell of a ride and that it's not goodbye for good. And when the time is right, maybe he'll be back and he'll be seeing everyone somewhere down the line. He then, gives everyone the wave, and people are, chanting the thank you, Jeff. He does mention, and maybe he forgot to mention this because he just kind of brings it up and says, hey, I was able to patch things up with my brother, and at least we have Matt Hardy still on SmackDown. And he says, sincerely, Jeff, from me to you. And, it's a pretty short speech, but then, people are now giving him a bigger reception, and he's shaking hands with the fans as he goes up the ramp. He gets to the top of the ramp, does his pose one more time, only to be attacked by CM Punk from behind. And Punk then really embraces being the heel, looks down at a fallen Jeff, and says, this is the guy you root for? This guy's gone. You're done. And he holds the belt up over Jeff Hardy, and he soaks in the boos, tells him, do it more, do it more, do it more. And he really embraces the hatred of the fans. And this is actually around the time I really started becoming a big Punk fan. I was really into his heel run. Let's be honest, CM Punk, while very over as a babyface, does his best work as a heel. And I remember really liking this segment. And like I said, this is what really renewed some of my interest back in SmackDown, watching heel CM Punk being pushed as a top guy, because that's what I really wanted to see. So for me, that's number 4. Number 3 brings us to 2005. And this actually is in November of 2005, leading up to the Survivor Series match of SmackDown vs. Raw. And this is the Raw invasion of SmackDown as the final go-home show leading into that pay-per-view. Randy Orton and Batista were scheduled to have a match for the World Heavyweight title, and the entire SmackDown roster was surrounding the ring as lumberjacks, on high alert in case Raw decided to try to make an invasion. The match doesn't even start when a bunch of Raw superstars run out from the back, and immediately the match gets thrown out. Batista and Randy Orton go to fight together. Rather than fighting each other, they go to fight together, and they start battling it out with everyone on Raw. The majority of the fight is taking place in the aisle, with nothing happening in the ring, which was interesting. But what they do here is they actually reserve the ring for the guys in the main event tag match. Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch bring Orton in the ring, but he hits them both with the RKO. And then Orton turns around and eats a super kick, only for Rey Mysterio to come through and hit Shawn Michaels with a flying seated senton and the 619. Carlito and Chris Masters come into the ring representing Raw, and Carlito actually hits, Cody, hits Mysterio with a crossroads. That's why I was about to say Cody. And then they have him in the Master Lock by Chris Masters. The world champion of SmackDown, Batista, comes to Mysterio's aid, hits both Carlito and Chris Masters with spine busters. But then here come the Raw Tag Champions. First, Kane hits the ring, and Batista nails him with a running shoulder block. Batista then knocks Big Show off the apron. And then when trying to force Kane back into a corner to isolate him, Big Show grabs Batista after coming into the ring for a chokeslam. So Batista responds by kicking Big Show in the nuts. He goes for a Batista bomb on Kane, but that's when the tide turns. Everyone is still battling it out, also in the aisleway, so no one can now see on the SmackDown side that Batista's in trouble. Big Show delivers a sidekick to Batista and knocks him out of the ring. And they start clearing off the announce table. And then it sets in what's happening to Batista, and this is one thing I really liked, was you saw his longtime rival, who he had feuded with all summer and fall for the world title, JBL, trying to run through the ring to help Batista and come to his aid. Showing that even though his hatred for Batista is still there, he's willing to put that on the back burner to represent the brand, because the brand supremacy is more important than the individual rivalry. So I really did like that they had they had JBL as the one trying to help Batista. He gets cut off by Shelton Benjamin, and now the table's cleared off, they set Batista up for a double chokeslam. The ring is now filling up, with the brawling now taking place in the ring. And at the same time, Kane and the Big Show hit the double chokeslam through the table. And then the segment ends with Big Show and Kane staring down at a fallen and prone Batista, with the brawl between SmackDown and Raw still going on inside the ring. And that's your go-home segment for Survivor Series, which I thought they executed really, really well. The crowd was into it, and I really think that actually that really had me, I remember, really looking forward to that match and seeing who was gonna take, obviously, the throne as the superior brand, because this was the first time they had really played off this in Survivor Series. Excuse me. Going now into number 2, we go to 2003. And this is a match, and this is a match that turns into an ending segment, similar to some of the segments I had for Raw, for those memorable moments in Raw. And this was a match between The Big Show and Brock Lesnar. And yeah, you could probably guess what this one, number 2 is referring to. And this talks about, and is calling back to when the ring exploded off that superplex by Brock Lesnar to The Big Show. Near the end of the match, for the title, The Big Show has Lesnar set up for a chokeslam, but instead he goes to the outside apron, and he tries to bring Lesnar to the top with him. Lesnar then crotches the Big Show and is able to break his grip. He throws a couple right hands and then goes up onto the second turnbuckle. He gets a front face lock and then hooks him up for the suplex now on the top turnbuckle. And he then gets him set up and he executes that superplex, which makes the ring implode. The steel posts fall, the ropes fall, and the referee also falls. And Big Show and Lesnar are both laid out cold, and the crowd is losing their minds. The crowd is loving this. To put over the seriousness of this, Big Show and Lesnar are laid out in the middle of the ring with not moving, probably close to, between 30 to 40 seconds, which doesn't sound like a long time, but for a segment like that, for them to just be laying there is a long time to drive home the point that they both just put their life in their hands and they're both now out cold. The EMTs and the medical trainers come down. They're checking on Lesnar and Big Show to end SmackDown. And they're putting it over again as a very serious situation. The match, of course, ends in a no contest, so it was kind of a disappointing way to end the match, but it made it so memorable because of the fan reaction, and because we hadn't seen anything like that before, where the ring just collapses. And also, I think it gave people a good, some excitement for the future, because we know the feud between those two isn't over, which had been going on since Survivor Series the previous year. This segment was then recreated in the future a couple other times, both times with the Big Show. Obviously, the segment didn't get quite as big a reaction because it wasn't the original, and now it's kind of done to death a little bit. But for its time, and the first time you see it, it definitely can leave you speechless. So that is number 2. Before we hit number 1, I did say I had 2 honorable mentions I wanted to talk about, and they are both from 2017. So I want to get into those. The first one is, again, another invasion angle from Raw, and this is, again, right before the 2017 Survivor Series. And it is The Shield invading SmackDown along with the rest of the Raw roster. This was done in response to the Under Siege attack that Shane McMahon and the SmackDown roster did on Raw about a month prior to build up Survivor Series. And I like how they did it, because they didn't interfere in matches, but they just stormed the backstage, and anyone they found backstage representing Raw, they just beat down and left laying, and they just went locker room to locker room, room to room, and just took out everybody. So you knew Raw would have to have a response. In a match between the New Day and versus Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, who were heels, the Shield music starts playing, and you see them in the crowd. They come down to the ring, and it looks like the New Day, along with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, are going to band together for a second. But the 2 cowardly heels bail out, and then it's a 3-on-3 brawl first, with the New Day versus the Shield. The Usos come down, and they don't attack at first because they stare at Roman, and this is years before the Bloodline, but they had been working together on Raw the year previous, and they don't attack Roman, but they do attack Dean and Seth. So now it's actually 5-on-3 in favor of SmackDown. But the bar comes out for Raw to make it 5-on-5. We jump now to the backstage where all the women of SmackDown, the ladies there, attack the ladies of SmackDown, and the last one being the women's champion for SmackDown, Charlotte. She's surrounded by the Raw roster before being taken out by Alexa Bliss. Back in the ring, more Raw guys storm the ring with Apollo Crews, Titus O'Neil, and Samoa Joe, along with Finn Balor. So now SmackDown is badly outnumbered, so Shane McMahon along with Baron Corbin and others come in to try to even up the odds. And the brawl is still going on until Kurt Angle comes out, general manager of Raw, remember, and brings out Braun Strowman. Braun bulldozes a couple of guys on his way to the ring. While Shinsuke Nakamura tries his luck, he gets taken out and thrown over the top very easily. Shane tries to protect his brand by attacking Braun, who no-sells everything. He clotheslines Shane, and then they all go to work on the SmackDown guys on the outside, while the Shield, in typical Shield fashion, surrounds Shane in the middle of the ring. They beat him down, and Kurt Angle comes in and gives them the thumbs down to tell them to Shield bomb Shane, which they do. After the triple power bomb, Kurt Angle then hits the Olympic Slam on Shane, because they were both going to be also representing their respective brands in the matches. They were both members of their respective teams. And Angle says, wait until Sunday if you think this is bad. And the segment ends with Raw standing tall on SmackDown. So, somewhat similar to the original Raw Invasion of 2005. And obviously, it definitely, anytime you have a big brawl like that, with a lot of top names like The Shield involved, or The New Day, etc., it's going to get the crowd definitely energized. It's going to wake the crowd up if it's been a boring show. And it definitely had an ending that, while we'd seen it a good amount of times at that point, a few times at least, it had people talking and excited for the SmackDown vs. Raw match for that Survivor Series in 2017. And I remember just really being a fan of that segment. The second honorable mention of 2017 for one of the best segments and closing segments, I should say, for SmackDown is between Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton. Excuse me. And yes, I know it's a little corny, but it is Randy Orton breaking away from the Wyatt family and burning down the Wyatt home and destroying the soul of Sister Abigail. Randy had won the Royal Rumble in January and was the number one contender to go face the champion at Mania, who at the time was AJ Styles. Actually, that night became John Cena. It was John Cena. But Bray Wyatt wound up winning Elimination Chamber and was the new WWE champion. So it looked like it would be the Wyatt family going at it. Randy Orton then came out a couple weeks later on SmackDown and relinquished his title shot and said, I will not face my master, Bray Wyatt. And as long as you are champion, you are also my master, and I'm subservient to you, and I will not face you. Bray told Randy, you now have the keys to the kingdom, and it seemed like he had full control over Randy Orton, and it was unknown who he was going to face. AJ Styles then won a number one contenders match against Brody Lee. Excuse me, sorry about this. And Bray then comes out at the end of SmackDown to talk about facing AJ Styles. But before he can get too into it, Randy pops up on the big screen. Randy tells Bray, I'm in your home, but it's not my home. He said, where I'm standing right now is where the soul of Sister Abigail was buried. The sister of Satan. Yes, he said, I am standing over the soul in the burial of Sister Abigail. He told Bray, he said, I've said for the longest time, if you can't beat him, join him. Because again, he had joined the Wyatt family earlier that fall, in 2016. And he also said, however, once you don't need him, screw him. He then told Bray, I see you now for how weak you truly are, and how I have you at my mercy. And he said, tonight, while this is your world, it was never mine. And I'm going, and he basically then says, and I'm going to destroy it, because at Mania, I'm coming for you, and I'm coming for your title. And he says this while he has like a pickaxe in his hand. He then drops the pickaxe, but then picks up a can of gasoline, starts to pour gasoline everywhere. And again, and this is, I'm sorry, in the Firefly, like the Firefly house. Not the fun house, but the house of the buzzards. He then goes outside and says, I'm going to burn down Sister Abigail and burn this house. And I'm going to burn it to entire damnation. He lights the flame, and then the house goes up in flames. And this is while obviously, Bray is begging Randy not to do it, saying, don't do it, you need to stop. But the house now burns up, and Randy Orton hits his trademark pose, and basically, message to Bray saying, see you at Mania. And then Bray jumps out of the ring to go up the ramp and then hopefully save Sister Abigail. It was a stupid segment, but I remember getting a laugh out of it. And just because I was wondering how they were going to break them up as in terms of the Wyatt family, how that breakup was going to happen. And it was so goofy and so over the top. But the thing is, these are memorable segments, and for me it made it memorable because it was so over the top. And while it didn't come across as a serious segment per se, it did come across as something that was entertaining and that I actually enjoyed. So that definitely deserves honorable mention as well. So before we get to number one, I also want to talk about the best segment in SmackDown history, which was not a closing segment, unfortunately, because it would have taken the number one spot easily. And I think everyone knows what I'm talking about. It is the supermarket brawl between Booker T and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Stone Cold had been after Booker T for almost a week because Booker T had cost Austin the WWF title at Vengeance when Jericho defeated him and The Rock at the same night to become the first undisputed champion. And at the same time, Vince had been favoring Booker T and had been siding with him because Vince that same night had attacked his business partner Flair during that Austin-Jericho title match. So Austin had reason to go after Vince and Booker T. Booker T had been on the run from Stone Cold that night on SmackDown and was in a grocery store and opened up a box of cereal and just started eating a few tricks or whatever it was, while again trying to escape Stone Cold's chase. He hears over the loudspeaker there's a can of whoop-ass for aisle 2. Booker T immediately starts getting nervous and looking around, and he attacks a bald guy from behind that he thinks is Stone Cold, but then realizes it's not. Realization sets in for Booker T, and Stone Cold is then seen right behind him. Vince McMahon in the skybox with Ric Flair starts yelling, "Book behind you," even though Booker T couldn't hear him. And then Stone Cold unloaded on Booker T and just started going to work on him. He beats him down and throws him around near the bread aisle at first. And then he throws him now into the produce section, onto some oranges and fruits in the fruit area too. And then first he squirts some ketchup on him while also hitting him with some right hands. And then Austin, making it a comedic moment, also goes, "Do you have any Grey Poupon?" and starts squirting the Grey Poupon on him as well. He continues to beat him throughout the store and then brings them closer to the fresh produce aisle, but also he starts pouring some pecans and some peanuts and crackers and things like that on him. And so now he's just he almost slipped actually, but he's totally just throwing anything he can on him just to make a mess of him at the same time. He stomps on him and also coats Booker T in baby powder. And Booker T is just, he's sounding like he's about to cry, but he's also just trying to escape. Stone Cold continues the beating, then going into the dairy area, and he grabs a pepperoni stick and a frozen pizza, starts singing That's Amore, but then starts also beating Booker T with a frozen pizza. He takes Booker T, puts him in a cart, starts beating him up some more, and then as he wheels him around, he also throws him into. He also throws him. Oh, that's right. He throws him down. He throws him into the cart, wheels him around, and tells him shopping makes me thirsty. And he pops open a beer and starts hitting Booker T with the beer. He then wheels him into the warehouse area, and he starts hitting him with eggs. He starts actually just throwing a bunch of eggs at him. So now Booker T, along with all the other crap on him, has egg yolk on him. Stone Cold then goes and runs to grab a box of crackers that he's going to hit Booker T with. But Booker T actually answers with a side kick. And then it cuts back to Vince and Flair, and Vince is starting to, change his tune a little bit and tells Booker T to get him. Booker T now throws Austin into some boxes of toilet paper, as well as he throws him into the door leading into the freezer. Throws Austin into the freezer and closes the door on him to lock him into the freezer. Booker T then stumbles out and staggers to his feet, and then tries to get back to the regular common grocery area and tries to get out of there. But you can see in the shot behind you that Austin is now in the fridge with all the milk, and he just comes through the refrigerator door, starts drinking all the milk, and then asks Booker T, "Hey Booker, got milk?" And then he goes after him again and starts beating him down some more, and then takes him again into another aisle, I think where the diapers are and everything, and he just starts beating on him and then puts him on another cart. He beats him up while on the cart and then says, "Time to check out." He takes him to the checkout aisle, and then after Booker T falls off the counter, Austin kicks him one more time. And as he's walking away, he just screams, "Price check on jackass!" And then Booker T is down, beaten, not bloodied, but just covered in groceries, and just keeps going, "I'm gonna get you, Austin. I'm gonna get you, Austin." And it cuts back to Flair looking at McMahon and just pointing at him, saying, "Hey, wasn't that great? Wasn't that great?" And that's how the segment cuts out before the match to end the show. But that is still remembered and talked about to this day, and to me and to many others is the best segment in the history of SmackDown. So now let's get to number one, which has just been overshadowed by reliving the supermarket brawl. But the number one closing segment in the history of SmackDown keeps us in the same year as that supermarket brawl between Booker T and Stone Cold. It keeps us in 2001. And it is the go-home segment to Survivor Series 2001. But in the winner-take-all match between the Alliance and Team WWF. This was actually at first a tag match between The Rock and Chris Jericho versus Stone Cold and Kurt Angle. The match was basically thrown out when Jericho was suplexed on the outside, and then Angle and Austin start beating down The Rock and going after his ankle. Austin brings a chair in the ring and starts attacking The Rock some more, and then they go to Pillmanize The Rock's ankle, not angle. But to make the save, Undertaker runs down. He catches Stone Cold off the second rope, and he hits him with a chokeslam. Undertaker then looks to chokeslam Kurt Angle, but Booker T runs in and hits him with a Harlem sidekick, which then allows Kurt Angle to hit The Undertaker with an angle slam. Jericho makes his way back into the ring, and he then is able to clothesline both Angle. First he clotheslines Booker T, and then he clotheslines Angle out of the ring. He hits Booker T with a running bulldog, and then hits a lionsault. RVD comes in and hits Jericho with a spinning crescent kick, and then he hits the top rope, and he hits Jericho with his 5-star frog splash. Kane then comes in for the WWF. He grabs RVD by the throat, and he chokeslams his future tag team partner. Shane McMahon for the Alliance comes in and then nails Kane in the head with a steel chair. So then Big Show comes in for Team WWF and just punches the chair right in Shane's face and knocks him out. Kurt Angle for the Alliance is then able to make a recovery at this point and is able to hit the Big Show with an Olympic slam. And then after that, when he's celebrating, The Rock has recovered, and he hits Kurt Angle with a rock bottom, only to turn around and, as you can guess, Austin's recovered, and he hits The Rock with a Stone Cold Stunner. Everyone is down and out except for Austin, who's surveying the damage. His music hits, but then, out on the ramp, Vince McMahon comes out, who had said that at Survivor Series, Stone Cold would be rejoining Team WWF, and he had put that seed of dissension in the Alliance camp. He looks at Austin and smiles, and then Austin returns the smile, and SmackDown goes off the air to leave in Survivor Series, unsure of where Austin's allegiance lies, as him and Vince McMahon are smiling at each other. That was, obviously, even though the invasion angle to some people and the Alliance angle was a little disappointing, that was an incredible way to end that SmackDown segment as you led up into that big elimination tag match. All key players were involved, everyone got a chance to shine and get what they needed to get in, and it furthered the McMahon-Austin storyline as well. And I think all of these segments were very memorable. I was a fan of all of them, and I remember, when watching them in real time, really being excited as to what was to come next because of how SmackDown closed out that night with those go-home segments. So that's my list of the top five closeout segments in the history of SmackDown, and also with the two honorable mentions from 2017. And of course, I just wanted to talk about the best moment in the segment in the history of SmackDown as well, being the fondly remembered Supermarket Brawl. So guys, let me know what you think in your comments down below. Let me know if you think I missed anything. Let me know if there's any segments you would replace or add. And I'll definitely be back soon with another episode of What Could Have Been in Wrestling. And I'm also committed, I'm going to be restarting the match analysis series as well. So thanks for all your comments and support, and I'll be back again soon. Take care, everyone.